Okay, good morning. So today continue the module 5. So before I get into that, I have shared the class average. Someone requested to know about class average. I have shared the class average information. WhatsApp group. You can check it out. Okay, right. Now let us uh, uh, let us understand what are the things we discussed so far. So we started with IO model interface. So the need for IO model interfaces, CPU and the external peripherals, they are all not, they have differences. There are, they are not directly, we cannot connect any IO device with a processor because processor operating characteristics is different from the operating characteristics of IO devices. So we have differences in terms of electrical, in terms of speed, in terms of data handling. So we need IO interface, IO model or IO interface. So that model will minimize the differences, or the IO models are helping us to connect IO devices with processor. Okay, right. And then we also discussed, as like memory, we need to assign some address to the IO devices, and the address must be unique. We should not repeat the address among the IO devices. So every device will have a unique address. In that case, we have two schemes to assign address to the IO devices. Number one is IO mapped IO or isolated mapped IO, and second is memory mapped IO. So we discussed in detail, and we concluded that IO mapped IO is suitable for low-end applications, and for larger systems we have to go with memory mapped IO. Okay, so this diagram is again very interesting diagram. I think I have seen this sometime back in a GATE question paper. I'm not remembering which year, GATE question paper or some public sector. I'm not remembering. Somewhere I've seen this. Look at this diagram. So from this diagram, we have to say whether or we have to identify what type of addressing scheme used in IO devices. Okay. So what is a clue? The clue is, I told you already, in memory mapped IO devices are also treated like one of the location of a memory. One of the location of a memory. So few addresses of memory are reserved. Okay. So please refer back to this one. You will get the point. Here. So few locations of memory, for example, like this, we are the addresses in this range we are using for IO devices. Okay, so these addresses should refers to IO devices. The remaining addresses of memory can be used as a memory. This point is clear. So we took an example 4 zeros to 1000H. It means we can assign this address to a device, this address to another device, and we can have many devices, right? We can connect many devices with the processor in that case, right? These addresses refers to IO devices, not referring to memory. So for this case, the memory starts from 1001H to the maximum capacity. That is the memory we have. But less than that, we have IO devices. So if CPU sends this address directly goes to IO devices. It will not go to memory. Are you getting this point? Any issues in understanding this? This is very, very important. That's why I'm repeatedly asking. Anybody having any issues in understanding this? Okay, right. So in that case, if CPU, for example, let us take the same example. If CPU sends 1000, uh, if CPU generates 1000, then it will send that address in the address line here. So this 1000 is available throughout the address bus, but the 1000 will not go to memory because 1000 in our example it is allotted for one of the device. Say for example, it is for this device. So the device can be accessed. CPU can access the device because that address is 1000. Suppose it sends 2000, then CPU can access the memory. So that's the concept. I mean that's an idea. So the idea is we have common address bus, common data bus, common read signal, write signal, and based on what type of address the CPU is generated, it will either go to the IO devices or it will go to the memory. So this diagram refers to memory mapped IO. Okay, clear? Right. In IO mapped IO, according to this diagram, it shows that it may look like memory mapped IO because the address is common. But what is the clue to conclude that this belongs to IO mapped IO? The clue is from CPU, the read and write operations are separate for IO devices and for memory. So the read and write, look here, read IO control signal, write IO control signal, read memory, write memory. Whereas here there is no specific read write for memory as well as for IO devices. A common read write signal is connected among the memory and IO devices. So CPU, whenever it sends a read or write, it will go both memory as well as IO devices, but based on what address being used, that read or write will connect to IO device or memory. Here, according to the diagram, the address seems to be common. It's not correct anyhow. But what is the other clue to conclude this belongs to IO mapped IO? We have a separate read-write signal for the IO devices and separate read-write signal for the memory devices. So this is what we discussed in this concept. Instructions to read or write IO models, exclusive instructions to read or write with IO devices. This is the case in IO mapped IO. Okay, so this diagram then belongs to IO mapped IO. Okay. Now I will upload these slides. These slides contains redundant terms. So when you download the slide, you see what are the look here. Able to see this one? I disabled certain pages, so no need to prepare those pages. Those pages are something extra. If you want, you can prepare, but from exam point of view or for preparation point of view, those pages are not required. Okay, some extra things have added in that. Will you able to see this one, this disabled option in the slides? Can someone answer me whether you are able to see this disabled mark? Otherwise you can go. Yeah, otherwise you can go. Yeah, otherwise you can go for presentation mode. It will present only the enabled pages of the PPT. Okay, from that also you can understand which all the things are needed, which other things are redundant. Okay. Next, there are two types of data transfer techniques are possible between CPU and memory, between CPU and IO devices. And most of the time, the CPU with IO devices will take place synchronous data transfer. Okay, so for that we should understand what is called synchronous and what is called asynchronous. So in the case of synchronous data transfer, CPU will have a clock, and the same clock will be used to connect CPU and other blocks. Okay, so CPU will have a clock and one second, diagram so that you will understand clearly. CPU and memory, they are connected with a common clock. For time being, let me use only clock signal. Other signals are, I'm not using other signals in this diagram, just to explain what is called synchronous. If CPU wants to send something to memory, or CPU wants to read something from memory, that action will take place only when the clock is properly connected. Okay, so during, for example, during active high portion of the clock, okay, let us take rising edge so that it will be easy to understand. Only during the rising edge we can have either read or write operation. So during falling edge we cannot do anything. So like that we have some control. That control carried out by the clock, common clock. Okay, it's a high speed clock, high speed common clock. So this high speed common clock will control the communication between CPU and the memory. Okay, so when clock is proper, for example here it is rising edge. When the clock during rising edge, either memory read or memory write can take place. Okay, right. Suppose we have separate clock, something like this. CPU, IO model, IO. So what it will do, there are IO models. More than one IO model can be used in our system. We have a clock from the CPU. The clock is taken by the IO, but this IO will divide this clock to its own frequency. This clock is taken by this IO, it will divide on its own frequency. Okay. For example, this is 1 kilohertz, just for 1 megahertz, for example. Then this IO device can work at 1 kilohertz. This can work at 10 kilohertz, something like that. Okay, so they have their own clock. The IO devices have their own clock. Accordingly, the data transfer will take place. Not this high-speed clock. So this is what asynchronous mode. So in asynchronous mode, we don't have a common clock. We have different clock speeds on different IO devices. Sometimes the IO devices may not use clock, something like that. Okay, this is called asynchronous. This point is clear? Because see, we have different memory, maybe RAM, cache, we have different memory. This can be a cache, this can be a main memory, but the clock remains common. The same high-speed clock will be connected to cache, same high-speed clock will be connected to main memory in the case of memory. But here, it is not like that. Every IO devices have their own clock. That clock can be derived from the master clock. This can be called as a master clock from the CPU, and they can use some divider circuit, clock divider circuit, and using that they set their own clock speed, and they will work only to that clock speed. So it is not a common. So here it is 1 kilohertz, here it is 10 kilohertz, something like that. So that's why it's called asynchronous. But here, if it is 1 megahertz clock, the same 1 megahertz clock is used for main memory as well as for cache memory. But here the 1 megahertz is not used for all the IO devices. They have their own clock speed. So this is called asynchronous mode. This is clear? The point is clear? Same clock, but IO devices will have their own clock speed. Okay, why this is happening? Because I told you already, IO devices are very slow. They are not able to cope up with the processor speed. So they are not able to work at 1 megahertz speed, for example. That's why they are divided to their own speed. Suppose I am using keyboard, I am using LED. or a printer or LCD, something like this, they have their own operating speed, right? Accordingly, they will operate at a particular speed. Okay, so 1 kilohertz means what? 1 millisecond. So it can operate at 1 millisecond. It can operate something like that. Okay, so they have their own operating speed. That's why they are not able to work with this particular frequency. So they have their own clock. Interestingly, some IO devices also comes with internal clock generating circuit. Okay, so they're all very complex IO devices. IO interface. Some IO interface, they have inbuilt clock generating circuit. They even not depend on the high speed clock from the CPU. So this is what the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous and asynchronous data transfer. So the timing, internal timing of each unit is independent. It means what? Someone operates at 1 kilohertz, someone operates at 10 kilohertz. So they have their own clock speed. So each unit may have their own private clock for their own registers. But in the synchronous mode, all the registers or all the memory, everything will work in the common clock from the CPU. So there is no common clock. It means what? Every IO devices have their own clock speed. That's the meaning. So any problem in understanding this? These are all the new concepts. Some may easily get the point, some may not understanding. So please let me know. I'll clarify again. You have any issues? Okay. Right. Now, the problem is, in the case of asynchronous data transfer, CPU is an high-speed device, but the clock speed of the IO devices are something low, right? So how this can be addressed? How the speed mismatch can be addressed? It is something like this. I'll take this one. It is something like this. So let me take case by case. In case 1, so it's their own clock, right? This 1 kilohertz clock is used for this one, for example. This must be known to the CPU. This must be known to this value must be known to the CPU for this particular device. This value must be known to the CPU for this particular device. Okay, so according to that time it can work. According to that time it can work. This is called strobe signal. In the case of strobe, CPU should work according to this speed. It means not that speed, sorry, because CPU should know. So when it is something like that, CPU can approach this device after 1 millisecond time, something like that. Okay, so this is called strobe signal. In simple way to understand, this is what strobe operation. Okay, suppose CPU is not interested to know all these values of IO devices. What it can do, it can send a signal, I am ready to this IO device. Suppose this IO device is ready during that time, it can send a signal back, yes, now I am also ready, we will have communication among us. So a request signal from the CPU or some indication from CPU and acknowledgement from the IO. This is called handshaking signal. So in the asynchronous mode, we have this issue. The clock speed of the IO devices are not matching with the clock speed of the CPU. That's why we have either of this. CPU should understand when it can approach the devices based on this clock. Okay, otherwise CPU can send a request without remembering all these values, CPU can send a request. Yes, I'm ready. If you are ready, you can interact with me like that. Upon receiving this IO interface will check whether the device is ready. If it's ready, it will send back a response, acknowledgement to the CPU. Yes, now the device is ready. Then CPU can work with this device according to its speed. Okay, because the moment it sends the signal to the IO model, CPU cannot expect immediate response from the IO. Okay, the CPU, it will send and it will wait. So after some time, it will get a response from this side. Then CPU can have interaction. That delay is equal to 1 millisecond, something like that. Okay, point is clear. So there are two ways by which during asynchronous data transfer, the communication will happen between CPU and IO devices. Handshaking signals or strobe signals. Is there any problem in understanding this? Okay, in other sense, for you to understand this way also you can take. So let us take this is 1 millisecond, right? So for every 1 millisecond, CPU will send a data to this IO. The understanding is this device can accept that data. So with that, it can send after every 1 millisecond, it will send a data. This is what happening in strobe. Whereas in handshaking, CPU, in the case of strobe, CPU may not aware whether the device is ready during the time or not. So for CPU point of view, after 1 millisecond, the device is supposed to be ready because the clock is 1 clock. So after every 1 millisecond, it will send one data. It won't bother whether the data will go to the keyboard or the IO devices or not. So it can just transmitting the data after every 1 millisecond. So this is the case of strobe. Whereas in the handshaking signal, CPU well aware of whether the device is able to get the data or not, because it will send, I'm ready, I want to transfer. If the device is ready, then only it will get the acknowledgement from this device to CPU. Then CPU can send a data. So in the handshaking mode, there is a possibility the data may not lost. Whereas in the case of strobe, there may be a data lost because CPU is not knowing whether the device is ready or not. It is sending the data after every 1 millisecond. So possibilities are there, some data may miss. But in the case of handshaking, CPU is knowing when the device is ready, only during that time it can send the data. So better in terms of error. So data, in terms of data handling. So we cannot, CPU cannot miss any data to communicate. It can communicate the data, all the data without any issues. So that's the difference. This point is clear. So certain things are maybe looking new to some of you, maybe known to you, but anyway, you try to get the concept clearly. We have slow devices, and how to manage the slow devices with the fast devices. Since they are not matching with speed, so only asynchronous mode is possible. In the case of asynchronous mode, the high-speed clock cannot be used as such. So devices have their own clock and they can use according to that. The clock can be generated by the devices by themselves, or it can be derived from the CPU clock. Right. Now, every device will have their own operating speed. Whenever CPU wants to transmit the data to the devices, it can send during that time. This is what strobe signal. So for this case, CPU should know at what time or when it can send a data to a particular device. Whereas in handshaking mode, again all the concepts are same. We need to use a derived clock for the IO devices, and CPU is high-speed device, and devices are slow. Everything is same. Only thing is, in the handshaking mode, CPU first send a signal to the IO interface to show that I am ready, whether the devices are ready or not. If the devices are ready, it can send a signal, acknowledgement signal, so that there is a possibility that CPU can interact with the devices. So this is what happened. Okay, right. Now let me go to another slide. Okay. Now either through handshaking mode or through stroke mode, the data may be, the CPU will have a connection with the IO devices, right? Now again, there is a possibility that it may go for different IO transfer, data transfer. So first CPU is trying to understand when the devices are ready. After that, the data transfer can take place in different options: programmed IO, interrupt IO, or DMA. Okay, right. The programmed IO. So this is what we are going to discuss in detail. But before that, we should know what is the role of that IO interface in IO interface in the communicate. In the interface. So what is the function of IO model that we have to understand? Okay. So actually, the IO model first it takes care of control and timing. So what does it mean? It is the duty of the IO model to check the devices as well as the CPU. Okay, and it will coordinate according to the requirement. So that is what the first thing. So it will check whether the device is ready, and it will intimate the CPU that the device is ready. And between CPU and the devices, the data may be, data transfer may happen. So the IO model should keep on checking the devices whether they are ready or not, as well as they are able to terminate the communication between CPU and devices. Okay. Then IO model can also communicate with CPU. It communicates with CPU as well as it can communicate with the devices. And there is a data buffering. Suppose the CPU is keep on sending data at its speed, then we need a buffer kind of arrangement, a storage kind of arrangement. So the high speed devices from the CPU, first it will be stored in the buffer, then it will be delivered to the IO devices according to the device speed. Okay, suppose it's 1, 2, 3, there are 3 datas. CPU at its speed it is sending, but the devices can understand only its own speed. Okay, so we need a we need to have a barrier here. We need to slow down the high speed devices, something like a barrier. So we need to store here, then it has to be delivered according to the device speed. So this is called data buffering. And while delivering the data, some IO models have intelligence. They can also have error detection option. So they like parity error or Hamming code. There are different error detection schemes. So those things are also taken care by the IO models. So IO models are not just uh, uh, simple IC. They have all this intelligence. So they should have a communication with CPU. They should have communication with. They should establish a communication with CPU as well as with IO model. As well as they should check the status of all the IO models. Okay. I think After seeing this, you will understand what are the steps we are going to have in the case of data transfer. So first, whenever CPU wants to do data transfer, whenever it wants to have a data transfer with IO devices, first it will check in the IO model whether the device is ready or not. Okay. I'll do one thing. I'll draw one diagram. You will get the clear idea about this one. I'll draw one diagram. You will get an idea. CPU. This is IO model or IO interface. Just for the simplicity, let me take only one diagram, one thing. So every IO model will be associated with one IO device or multiple IO devices. So let me take, there are two devices, device 1, device 2. For example, this IO model is connected with two devices. Okay, and this box belongs to device 1. Let us assume this box belongs to device 2. Right? Fine. So what this box is called as status register. What is the size of that register? It is equivalent to how many devices are connected. Two devices are connected. The size of that status register is 2 bits. If only one device is connected, then it is a single bit, like a flip-flop. Only one flip-flop is used. Here multiple flip-flops are used. 2 flip-flops are used. Okay, right. Suppose CPU wants to talk to device 1. Okay, and let us assume if it is 1, it means the device is ready. If it is 0, the device is not ready. Let us assume. Okay, right. So it is the duty of IO interface. It will check whether the devices are ready or not. Accordingly, it can set, this IO model can set 1 or 0 in its status register. So whenever CPU wants to communicate with any one device, for example device 1, first it will come and it will check what is the status of device 1. If 1 means ready, 0 means not ready. Okay, right. First CPU will check this bit 1, right? Then it can have connection between, this IO interface will facilitate connection between CPU and device 1. Suppose it is 0, then CPU will go back. Because by knowing this, CPU will understand whether the devices are ready or not. So this is what that information. So CPU checks IO model device status. IO model returns the device status. Return the device status means what? 0 or 1 to the CPU. If it is 1, CPU can request data transfer to the IO model. Then IO model will facilitate from the device to CPU. The data transfer may possible, maybe 8-bit, 16-bit, like that. Okay. Sometimes what happens is, suppose CPU can understand everything in 16 bits, but the devices are emitting only, devices are sending the data only 8 bits. Then IO model will collect 2 to 8 bits, it will make it a 16-bit. That 16-bit information will be transferred to CPU. So like that also possible. Okay, this point is clear. So we have this is a device, this IO, this is a device 1. Okay, so device 1 can understand in 8 bits, but CPU can understand in, this is CPU can understand only in 16 bits. So 16-bit processor. This IO interface, right? This IO model will collect 2 8-bits data, 2 8 bits. Then the 2 8-bit data will be transferred to CPU, because CPU can understand only in 16 bits. So that in that case, the IO model will have that provision. Okay, so IO model have more intelligence. So accordingly, the cost of the interface will be high. Okay. So IO model can also accumulate the data and it can send the data to CPU. Sometimes we can have a DMA type of data transfer that we will see later in our syllabus. I think I can stop at this time because too much of concepts. It may confuse you if I continue because we will continue programmed IO and interrupt driven IO in the next class. But I want you to understand the concepts. That's why let me clarify the points again. Very simple. CPU is a high speed device and the IO devices are all low speed devices. So we need to have one interfacing mechanism. That interfacing mechanism will have some facilities like status information, and you should have some buffer kind of thing, and you should have some accumulating kind of thing. So what is the need of status register? The status register automatically get updated whenever the connected devices are ready. In a single IO model, we can connect only one device or multiple devices. Accordingly, the status register will be varying. Size of the status registers will be varying. Next, whenever CPU wants to talk to devices, the first step is CPU will go and access status register of a particular IO model. From that, it will understand whether the device is ready or not. Then, if the device is ready, then CPU can send a thing like ask the data IO model that I want to have communication with the device. Since the device is ready, you please help me like that. Then IO model will communicate this to the IO devices. Then we will have a communication between IO devices and CPU. If CPU is a larger, if CPU has larger data lines, but the IO devices are 8-bit devices, in that case, IO models will have that provision to collect the data and feed the data to CPU according to its size. 2 8-bit data will be collected, then combinedly 16-bit data will be sent to CPU, because CPU can accept only 16 bits. In that case, IO interface will also facilitate that. So this is the thing I want to stress again. And we have seen memory mapped IO and IO mapped view in the form of diagram, and strobe communication and asynchronous communication. So that also we discussed. Sorry, handshaking, that also we discussed. We also differentiated synchronous and asynchronous mode of communication. So let me go slowly because I don't want to I don't want to load too many concepts in a single class, because these concepts are related to each other, but slightly they are varying. So if I explain all this in a single class, it will confuse you. So let me go portion by portion. Okay, it's a very simple model. You can easily complete this on time. Already we are ahead of our lesson plan. So we are supposed to start memory by this time. We have completed the model. So let me go slowly, and we try to understand the concepts clear. Okay. So any doubts so far in this discussion? Okay. Right. Now what I am going to do is I am going to share your registered titles for your DA2. In spite of all the instructions, many of you again registered 8051 microcontroller, AVR microcontrollers. How we can accept all this? I clearly told you have to use only processors. You are not supposed to use microcontrollers. Okay. If you use microcontrollers comes with internal memory. So in the DA2, I asked about external memory configuration. What is how much memory we can connect, and how to establish connection, all those. In microcontrollers also we can have external memory. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that is optional, is it or not? In using 8051 we also connect external memory, that is there, but it's very rare. Most of the time we are comfortable with internal memory and we are working with internal memory. If it is required, we may go with other microcontrollers with larger internal memory capacity. We are going with external memory. So this is the way the system is going on. So that's why please avoid microcontroller based topics. So what I will do is I'll download that Excel sheet and I will highlight in yellow color and I will share to you. So please select another title and register title at the earliest. Next week you are supposed to submit DA1. I already told you, I already shared the questions. Two things you have to write by hand. The topic may be typed or handwritten. So please submit your assignments on time. Okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you.